Chosen one. There is a moment like this that rarely arrives with noise, yet it changes everything. It is the moment when something you have suspected for a long time is quietly verified behind the scenes. No announcement, no public acknowledgement, no visible shift you can point to and say, "This is it." And yet something locks into place. A question you have carried for years, one you rarely spoke out loud, has just been answered without words. You were not imagining it. You were not misreading the pattern. What you sensed was real, and it has now been confirmed in a way that does not require your awareness to be valid. What makes this moment disorienting is not the confirmation itself, but how it arrived. It did not come from peers, spectators, or people who only see fragments of your life. It did not come from those who measure value by visibility or popularity. It came from a high-level player, one who sees the full board rather than individual pieces. Someone or something with perspective wide enough to recognize long-term strategy, hidden influence, and quiet consistency. This kind of confirmation never comes through applause. It comes through recalibration, through doors moving subtly, through power shifting its posture around you. You were evaluated by an intelligence that does not guess, does not assume, and does not rush. And the verdict has already been rendered. This is why you may feel strangely calm right now. Not excited, not vindicated, just steady. Your nervous system does not spike because your soul already knew. When truth confirms what has long been sensed, there is relief rather than shock. The shock is happening elsewhere. While you remain grounded, others are reacting strongly, sometimes irrationally. You may notice shifts in behavior around you that feel sudden or exaggerated. People who were once dismissive become curious. People who felt comfortable overlooking you become uneasy. When confirmation is real, it removes the hunger to be believed. You no longer need agreement to feel grounded. Externally, changes begin to unfold with surprising effortlessness. Doors that once resisted now open quietly. Alignment replaces friction. Support appears without you having to chase it. Conversations that stalled suddenly progress. Opportunities align without urgency or manipulation. This does not mean everything becomes easy. It means movement replaces stagnation. What belongs to you comes forward without force. What does not belong drifts away without drama. This is how alignment works when resistance is no longer feeding on doubt. You are no longer pushing against the system. The system is adjusting around you. One of the most noticeable external shifts is the quality of support that appears. Instead of vague encouragement or conditional backing, you begin encountering precise assistance. The right person speaks at the right time. The right resource appears exactly when needed. Guidance arrives without confusion. This support feels clean rather than transactional. It does not ask you to shrink, rush, or compromise. That is how you know it is aligned. Misaligned support always demands urgency or obedience. Aligned support respects timing and agency. Now more than ever, composure becomes critical. Silence, precision, and restraint matter more than action. The instinct to move quickly, to announce progress, or to assert position must be managed carefully. Confirmation places you in a new phase where how you move is more important than how fast you move. Noise dilutes leverage. Over-explanation invites interference. Reaction exposes strategy. This is not the time to prove anything. It is the time to let positioning happen naturally. Silence at this stage is not fear or hesitation. It is control. It allows others to reveal their intentions without your influence. It keeps you from being pulled into unnecessary dynamics. Precision ensures that when you do speak or act, your impact is clean and undeniable. Restraint prevents premature exposure of plans, alliances, or direction. Those who rush after confirmation often do so out of residual insecurity. Those who wait do so out of confidence. Waiting does not mean stagnation. It means letting the board finish rearranging itself. There will be temptation to react emotionally, especially if others respond to your confirmation with urgency, curiosity, or resistance. Do not take the bait. Emotional reactions reopen old patterns of justification and defense. They pull you back into the proving phase you have just exited. Remember this clearly: you no longer need to explain who you are to those who could not see you before. Explanation feeds confusion. Presence feeds clarity. Let your consistency speak louder than any statement ever could. Prematurely revealing your position is another common misstep. When something real is confirmed, the urge to share it can be strong. But information shared too early invites distortion. People interpret from their own agendas. They project fears, expectations, or competition onto what they hear. High-level positioning thrives on understatement. Those who need to know will know through alignment, not announcement. Those who do not need to know will only create noise if informed prematurely. This phase marks a transition that many never recognize correctly: the shift from proving to positioning. Proving is effortful. It requires energy, explanation, and endurance. Positioning is subtle. It requires awareness, patience, and precision. In the proving phase, you respond to obstacles. In the positioning phase, obstacles reveal themselves without you engaging them. In the proving phase, you move to be seen. In the positioning phase, visibility finds you when appropriate. Positioning does not mean passivity. It means strategic stillness. You are observing more than acting. You are listening for alignment rather than forcing outcomes. You are allowing the effects of confirmation to propagate naturally. This may feel uncomfortable if you're accustomed to earning every step. But understand, this effort is not what carries you forward now. Accuracy does. The more accurately you hold your position, the less effort is required. You may notice a new relationship with time emerging. Urgency fades, timing sharpens. You begin to sense when to wait and when to move without intellectual analysis. This is not intuition becoming louder. It is noise becoming quieter. You trust pauses. You respect delays. You recognize that not everything that can be done should be done immediately. Timing is no longer something you chase. It is something you align with. Internally, a subtle authority settles in. Not dominance, not entitlement. Authority. You stop negotiating your boundaries. You stop entertaining misalignment. You stop overgiving to prove worth. This authority is calm, not rigid. It allows you to say no without guilt, and yes without hesitation. It simplifies decision-making because it is grounded in clarity rather than fear. You do not need to convince yourself anymore. You simply decide. Externally, this authority changes how others engage with you. Some will step forward respectfully. Others will step back quietly. A few may test boundaries to see if old patterns still apply. They do not. How you respond in those moments matters. Calm firmness closes loops quickly. Emotional engagement prolongs them. Let your responses be minimal, measured, and intentional. Chosen one confirmation is not the climax. It is the pivot. Everything after it depends on how well you hold yourself in this transition. The work now is not louder action, but cleaner alignment. Not acceleration, but accuracy. Not reaction, but composure. You have moved beyond the phase of proving your value. You are now being positioned according to it. Let that positioning complete without interference. The less you rush, the more precisely it unfolds. Chosen one, let this land gently but firmly. Now your story never needed defense. It needed time. Time to reveal patterns. Time to expose motives. Time to let consistency outlast noise. What you lived through was not delay for delay's sake. It was maturation. Truth that moves too quickly invites distortion. Truth that is allowed to mature becomes undeniable. You were not late, you were ripening. And now that time has done its work, there is nothing left to argue, explain, or justify. The narrative holds on its own. This is why stillness is not weakness in this moment. It is confirmation. When a story is false, it requires constant reinforcement. When a story is true, it survives silence. You do not need to respond to every misunderstanding or correct every misinterpretation. Those efforts belong to an earlier phase when uncertainty still hovered. That phase has closed. What is real now does not require maintenance through reaction. It holds because it is accurate. The panic you may be witnessing around you is not a reflection of threat. It is a reflection of loss of control. Enemies, rivals, or opportunists panic not because you attacked them, but because timelines have shifted beyond their influence. They were operating under assumptions that no longer apply. They expected you to remain unsure. They expected delay to exhaust you. They expected silence to erode your confidence. Instead, silence refined you. Delay clarified you. Pressure strengthened you. When the timeline corrected itself, it moved out of their hands and into alignment. That handoff is what creates fear. Understand this clearly. Panic is never a sign of strength. It is the sound control makes when it slips. Those who truly hold power do not rush. They do not smear. They do not scramble. They wait. When you see urgency, desperation, or erratic behavior, you are not seeing strategy. You are seeing reaction. And reaction only appears when leverage is gone. This is not something to celebrate or exploit. It is something to observe calmly and let complete its cycle. Your role now is simple, though not always easy. Remain grounded. Grounded does not mean emotionally flat. It means rooted, present in your body, clear in your perception, anchored in your values. Grounded people do not get pulled into emotional storms that are not theirs. They witness without absorbing. They listen without over-identifying. They respond without being provoked. This groundedness is your protection and your advantage. Remain observant. Observation without commentary is one of the most powerful positions you can hold. Let people reveal themselves. Let patterns repeat if they must. Let urgency expose intention. When you observe without reacting, you gather information without creating noise. That information will guide you more accurately than any emotional response ever could. Observation keeps you ahead without needing to announce that you are. Remain disciplined. Discipline now is not about effort. It is about restraint. Choose when to speak. Choose when to move. Choose when to wait. Discipline keeps you from leaking energy into battles that no longer matter. It keeps you from re-entering dynamics that are already resolving themselves. Every disciplined pause strengthens your position. Every unnecessary reaction weakens it. This is not about control over others. It is about mastery of self. You may feel an impulse to do something simply because you sense momentum shifting. Resist that impulse unless action is clearly aligned. Momentum does not always require motion from you. Sometimes it requires you to hold steady so that momentum can pass through you cleanly. When outcomes are inevitable, rushing only creates turbulence. Stillness allows alignment to complete its work. Now hear the core truth without embellishment. When high-level players confirm you, outcomes are inevitable, not because of favoritism, not because of luck, because alignment has been recognized where it matters. Once that recognition happens, the system adjusts accordingly. You do not need to force results. You do not need to chase validation. The trajectory has already been set. What remains is timing and stewardship. You are no longer chasing victory. That chase belonged to a phase where proof was still required. You are preparing to steward what arrives. Stewardship demands maturity, patience, and clarity. It asks you to think beyond the moment and act with long-term awareness. Victory without stewardship collapses quickly. Victory with stewardship stabilizes and multiplies. That is the difference between those who rise briefly and those who endure. So stay still, not frozen, not passive. Still in the sense of centered, deliberate, and unshaken. Let the noise around you burn itself out. Let panic exhaust itself. Let timelines realign fully. You are already winning, not because you defeated anyone, but because you outlasted distortion. And now, with clarity restored and confirmation secured, the only thing left is to carry what comes next with integrity. People who relied on your silence or humility begin to move defensively. This contrast is important. Calm and turbulence in them. That is the signature of a verification moment. Understand this clearly. Confirmation never happens in isolation. It triggers exposure. When a quiet asset is recognized, those who benefited from it remaining hidden feel the ground move beneath them. Fear surfaces because underestimation was their advantage. Panic emerges because control depended on you not being seen clearly. The moment a high-level player acknowledges your value, every dynamic built on ignoring it begins to destabilize. And destabilization always reveals intent. You are witnessing not hostility toward you, but anxiety about what your confirmation represents. This is why reactions around you may not make sense on the surface. Someone may become unusually competitive. Another may attempt to reclaim relevance through noise or urgency. Others may suddenly question decisions they once made confidently. These are not personal attacks. They are systemic responses. When the board shifts, pieces scramble. When influence is reassessed, those who relied on outdated hierarchies feel exposed. You did nothing to provoke this. You did not announce yourself. You did not demand recognition. The system simply adjusted, and adjustment creates friction for those who were comfortable with imbalance. It is important to note that the confirmation you received did not require you to change anything about how you show up. That is one of its most telling features. High-level verification does not ask for performance. It acknowledges consistency. It recognizes pattern over time. It notices how you move when no one is watching, how you respond under pressure, how you carry weight without advertising it. This is why the confirmation came quietly. Loud recognition belongs to shallow evaluation. Quiet confirmation belongs to strategic clarity. You may not even know exactly who or what initiated this verification. And that is intentional. This is not about allegiance to a person or institution. It is about positioning within a larger structure. Think of it less as someone choosing you and more as reality acknowledging alignment. When a piece consistently behaves according to its true function, the board reorganizes around it. That reorganization is already in motion. As this settles, pay attention to the emotional mismatch between you and your environment. You may feel neutral while others feel urgent. You may feel patient while others feel rushed. You may feel settled while others feel threatened. This mismatch is not arrogance or detachment. It is evidence that your internal state is no longer being dictated by external validation. You are operating from internal coherence, and coherence disrupts systems built on insecurity. Those who benefited from you being underestimated are now facing an uncomfortable truth. Their leverage was never strength. It was assumption. They assumed you would remain quiet. They assumed you would continue to carry more than your share without question. They assumed your integrity would keep you compliant. The moment those assumptions are challenged by verification, fear surfaces. Exposure is not about wrongdoing alone. It is about miscalculation. And miscalculation at high levels carries consequences. Do not misunderstand this moment. You are not being elevated above others. You are being placed accurately. Accuracy feels threatening to those who relied on distortion. This is why confirmation triggers panic in some and relief in others. Those who value integrity recognize you as an ally. Those who value control recognize you as a variable they can no longer ignore. You are not required to respond to any of this. In fact, responding prematurely would dilute the precision of the moment. Verification does not ask for defense or explanation. It asks for steadiness. Let reactions reveal themselves. Let behavior speak. Let the system finish adjusting. Your role is not to capitalize on this moment, but to remain aligned within it. Power that rushes announces insecurity. Power that waits confirms confidence. There may be a temptation to seek clarity, to ask questions to understand exactly what has been confirmed and by whom. Resist that urge for now. Knowing too much too soon invites interference. Trust the calm you feel. It is not apathy. It is recognition integrated at the right level. When confirmation is real, it does not inflate the ego. It grounds it. Chosen one. This is the moment your reality was quietly verified, not by the crowd, but by something that sees beyond it. While others react to adjust or panic, you are being invited into stillness. Stillness is not passivity. It is command without noise. Let this moment do its work. Exposure will continue. Fear will surface where it must, and clarity will spread without you needing to push it. You suspected this for a long time. Now it has been confirmed. And the most powerful thing you can do is exactly what you are already doing. Remain steady. Remain precise. Let the board reveal itself. Chosen one to understand what has just occurred. You need clarity on what high-level confirmation actually means, because it is often misunderstood by those who measure value through visibility. A high-level player is not simply someone with a title, a following, or a loud voice. It is someone with authority, influence, discernment, or access that others do not have. They see patterns instead of moments. They understand leverage instead of noise. They recognize long-term impact rather than short-term performance. A high-level player does not react to trends. They read trajectories. They do not guess, they assess. And most importantly, they are not impressed by appearances. They are interested in reliability. This is why real confirmation almost never arrives with applause. Applause belongs to crowds, and crowds respond to spectacle. High-level confirmation happens quietly, strategically, and often invisibly. It does not interrupt your life with celebration. It subtly rearranges it. Doors shift. Conversations change tone. Decisions are made elsewhere that affect you without explanation. You may not even be told directly that you have been recognized, because recognition at this level does not require your participation to be valid. It requires accuracy, not acknowledgement. When something is confirmed at this tier, it is confirmed because it is true, not because it needs to be seen. This distinction matters because many people spend their lives chasing validation that proves nothing. They seek reactions, praise, or approval that is based on performance, charisma, or timing. High-level confirmation does not validate performance. It validates story. It looks at the full arc of who you are, how you have moved through pressure, and what you do when no one is rewarding you for it. It asks a single silent question. Is this person consistent when conditions are unfavorable? If the answer is yes, everything else becomes secondary. That is why what has been confirmed is not how impressive you looked, how persuasive you sounded, or how visible you became. What has been confirmed is your narrative, your lived pattern, your reliability under strain, your ability to hold integrity when shortcuts were available. High-level players are not fooled by bursts of brilliance followed by collapse. They look for steadiness. They look for someone who does not fracture when delayed, who does not betray their values when pressured, and who does not abandon their principles when no one is watching. That is the story that has been validated. Your consistency is what triggered recognition. Not dramatic moves, not declarations, not attempts to be seen. You kept showing up the same way in different seasons. You remained measured when others were reactive. You stayed restrained when you could have retaliated. You held your line when compromise would have made life easier. Integrity was not something you displayed when it was convenient. It was something you defaulted to when you were tired, unseen, or uncertain. That kind of consistency is rare, and it is unmistakable to those who know how to look. Chosen one, when high-level confirmation lands, the most immediate and revealing consequence is not celebration, promotion, or applause. It is panic. And that panic does not come from strength. It comes from the collapse of control. The moment a higher authority validates you, the psychological ground shifts for anyone who benefited from keeping you uncertain, underestimated, or invisible. Their advantage was never superiority. It was ambiguity. Once ambiguity is removed, leverage disappears. Control systems depend on doubt. When doubt evaporates, so does their grip. Here is the psychological shift that occurs behind the scenes. Before confirmation, your value was negotiable in the minds of others. They could question you, delay you, dismiss you, or reinterpret your intentions to suit their needs. They could afford to ignore you because ignoring you maintained the balance of power. But once a higher authority confirms you, that flexibility is gone. You are no longer a variable they can manage. You become a fixed point, and fixed points terrify those who rely on manipulation, because manipulation only works on unstable ground. Enemies, rivals, or opportunists rarely operate through direct confrontation at first. They operate through confusion. Confusion keeps you reactive. Confusion keeps you explaining yourself. Confusion keeps you second-guessing your instincts. Isolation keeps you small. Doubt keeps you compliant. These are not random conditions. They are strategies. As long as you were questioning yourself, they did not need to oppose you openly. As long as you were unsure, they could shape the narrative quietly. As long as you felt alone, they could position themselves as gatekeepers of approval or access. Confirmation breaks that structure instantly. When a higher authority validates you, it does not just elevate your position. It exposes the fact that those tactics were necessary in the first place. That exposure is what triggers panic. Suddenly, the story they relied on no longer holds. The version of you they presented to others no longer aligns with reality. The delays they justified now look intentional. The silence they imposed now looks strategic. And when intent is exposed, fear follows. This is why their reactions become erratic. Panic rarely looks like confidence. It looks rushed, messy, and reactive. One common response is sudden monitoring or attention. People who previously ignored you begin watching closely. They check your moves. They ask questions they never cared about before. They insert themselves into conversations they once avoided. This is not interest. It is damage control. They are trying to anticipate what you might do now that you are no longer contained by doubt. Monitoring is the last resort of those who have lost narrative control. Another common response is smear attempts or manufactured urgency. When control collapses, some attempt to regain it by reshaping perception quickly. They spread half-truths, exaggerations, or subtle character attacks, often framed as concern or warning. Others create artificial deadlines, forcing rushed decisions in hopes that pressure will produce mistakes. Urgency is a manipulation tool. It is designed to pull you back into reaction mode. When someone suddenly needs you to move fast, explain yourself, or respond immediately after a confirmation pause. Speed benefits those who are behind. A third panic response is forced exposure or sloppy moves. This is when people reveal their hand unintentionally. They overreach. They contradict themselves. They act out of character. They attempt to assert authority where they no longer have it. These moments are not dangerous if you remain still. In fact, they are clarifying. When pressure rises, hidden intentions surface. Panic accelerates error. Those who once moved carefully begin making mistakes because they are no longer operating from confidence. They are operating from fear. It is essential to understand this clearly. Panic is not power. Panic is the signal of power loss. If someone truly held authority over you, they would not need to react at all. Silence would suffice. Stability would be enough. Reaction is the language of insecurity. When someone scrambles after your confirmation, they are not responding to your actions. They are responding to the collapse of an advantage they relied on. This is why you must resist the urge to interpret panic as threat. Panic feels loud, but it is hollow. It is noise created by instability. The moment you treat panic as danger, you re-enter the old dynamic. The moment you stay calm, the dynamic completes its collapse. High-level confirmation shifts the battlefield from emotion to structure. Structures that depended on you staying unsure cannot survive once you stop feeding them attention. You may also notice something subtle and important. The people who truly hold authority respond differently. They do not panic. They do not rush. They do not smear. They observe. They adjust quietly. They wait. This contrast will help you discern who was operating from control versus who was operating from clarity. Panic always reveals position. Reinforce this truth internally. Their reaction is not evidence of your risk. It is evidence of your verification. If nothing had changed, there would be no response. If you were insignificant, there would be no urgency. If your confirmation were false, it would not destabilize anyone. Panic only follows real shifts. It is the echo of recalibration. Your role now is not to defend yourself, confront enemies, or expose anyone publicly. That would only entangle you in their fear. Your role is to remain precise. Let their behavior speak. Let their urgency reveal itself. Let their contradictions accumulate. Stillness accelerates exposure faster than confrontation ever could. You do not need to prove anything. The confirmation has already done that where it counts. Chosen One, when enemies panic, it is not because you attacked them. It is because the ground beneath them moved. They built systems on your underestimation, and those systems are no longer stable. Let that be the final confirmation you need. Calm in you, chaos in them. That is not coincidence. That is the signature of a shift that cannot be reversed. Chosen One. The most important changes after confirmation do not announce themselves outwardly. They happen internally first, and they are unmistakable once they begin. The loudest shift is the quieting of self-questioning. Doubt does not disappear because you force confidence. It dissolves because it no longer has a foundation. You stop replaying old conversations in your mind. You stop asking whether you misread situations or imagined resistance. The internal debate that once consumed energy simply loses relevance. This clarity does not feel euphoric. It feels settled, like a long-running background noise finally switching off. You are no longer negotiating your own perception with yourself. What you know, you know. This clarity changes how you relate to your past. Moments that once confused you suddenly make sense. Patterns you could not prove now appear obvious. You recognize where you were tested, where you were delayed intentionally, and where silence was not neglect, but observation. The need to justify your journey evaporates. Not because others suddenly understand it, but because you do. That understanding anchors you internally in a way that external validation never could.